Welcome, one and all, to the Professional Homegirl Podcast. Before we begin today's episode, we want to remind you that the views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the host and guests and are intended for educational and entertaining purposes. In this safe space, no question is off limits because you never know how someone's storyline can be your lifeline. The Professional Homegirl Podcast is here to celebrate the diverse voices, stories, and experiences of women of color, providing a platform for authentic and empowering conversations. There will be some 𝐃𝐿, some tears, but most importantly, a reminder that tough times don't last, but professional homegirls do. Enjoy the show.
What's up, professional homegirls? It's your girl Eban here, and we are back with another amazing conversation. But before we start, I want to be transparent about what's been going on with me. Y'all, I haven't been feeling like myself as of lately, and I think I'm burnt out. My social battery is very low, and I think that explains why I haven't been physically feeling 100% like myself. And I feel like I've been sick since the beginning of the year. Like, I cannot get rid of this cough. I got sniffles. Like, I don't know, y'all. Like, I just feel like I'm done. And y'all know I've been working so hard on building the Professional Homegirl, just overall brand. And, you know, whether it's finding new conversations, working on merch, you know, building the YouTube page, which y'all please follow at the Professional Homegirl on YouTube, you know, just doing everything in my power to make this happen with making PHG a household name. And don't even get me started with the colonizers at my 9 to 5. It's been a lot. It's been a lot. And because of all this grinding, y'all know it comes with a lot of sacrifices. And one of those sacrifices have been my health. And I'm really tired. I'm a little burnt out. And of course, I believe in the Professional Homegirl so much. So, you know, it has definitely changed my life in many ways. And I'm pretty sure from the letters that y'all send me, it's definitely changed you all's life. And, you know, these past few weeks, I've been talking to my prayer warriors, which is my girlfriends and just a couple of mentors and just people who have been with me along this journey. And, you know, they've been praying for me. And as I've been praying, one of the things that I remember is the times that I pray to God to be exactly where I'm at. And that also has been a struggle because, you know, sometimes I beat myself up because it's like, damn, I prayed for this. And I'm really standing in the middle of those prayers that I once prayed for. But man, these blessings, y'all, it's a lot of work. I try not to beat myself up too much about it because, you know, I'm really thankful, and I know I'm blessed, and I know from where I come from and to where I'm going is a lot of people would love to be where I'm at, and I try not to complain, but it's been a lot, y'all. It's I don't know. I feel like I'm about to get emotional, but I don't know. I'm just really tired. So I want to say, and I'm not leaving or anything, the episode's going to keep coming, but I just want to say, you know, thank you all for your support and just for always just loving me. I feel like, you know, we are so connected, me and my professional homegirls and homeboys, and y'all been sending me so many messages just telling me to rest. Taylor's always telling me to rest. And, you know, I'm receiving messages letting me know that you all been praying for me. I don't know, maybe y'all can hear the tiredness in my voice sometimes. You know, I really try to push through, but if I'm being honest, I had a conversation that I don't know if I'm going to air it or not. And I was just, it was just, yeah. I couldn't fake it much longer, but anywho. So I really can't thank y'all enough for those reminders because some days are really hard, y'all. It's really hard. So yeah, so thank y'all for loving me. You know, keep sending me those love letters. You know, they really do help. I feel like God always sends me little reminders through you all. So, and also now you can send me voice messages that I'm really excited about, which will be featured on the show. So you can click the link in the show notes below, Or you can go to www.speakpipe.com/PHG to leave a message. You only got 90 seconds, so make it good now, okay? Now, this week's episode will be a rewind episode featuring my conversation with Len and Jay Bias's mother. I'm in the middle of batch recording and was planning to redrop the swinger episode I did a few years ago with a woman who is known as the mother of swingers. And that was a really good, informative conversation. However, Debbie, an OG professional homegirl, hey girl, hey, she sent me a love letter and she shared her favorite episodes. And one of them was the conversation that I did with the Bias's mother. And I'm like, oh my God, that was such a good conversation. Plus, like many of you, Debbie is an NBA girly, and with everything that's going on with LeBron James and his son Bronny, and we support Black nepotism over here, I thought that this would be the perfect episode to drop. So thank you so much, Debbie, for that reminder. Plus, it's so funny because I recorded this conversation in 2021, y'all, and just re-listening to it now really came at the perfect time with the messages that the Bias's mother share about the different seasons that we have in our life. And I don't know if this happens for you, but sometimes I listen to my old episodes and they really serve as a reminder to myself, as if my past self knew what my current self needed during certain times. And this episode definitely poured back into me, y'all, especially during this season that I'm in, because I really needed it the most. I always felt like I knew the Bias story growing up, but I don't know if y'all remember that episode on Snowfall where they talked about Lynn's story, and it was pretty much showing Lynn, or the character that was playing Lynn, and everything that led up to his demise. And, it really, really was important for me to have his mother on the show. And seeing how his story was portrayed on Snowfall added a new depth to my understanding and appreciation of the Bias's journey. Also in Debbie's email, she mentioned that it was Lynn's death, not Nancy Reagan, that convinced her to say no to drugs growing up. So that really struck a chord with me because it shows the real impact that Lynn's story had on people's lives, including my own. So it's only right that we drop this rewind episode to honor his influence and the Bias's legacy and to remind ourselves of the powerful lessons within. My conversation with Len and Jay Bias's mother starts now. Well, I feel like a lot of my guy friends are like really super excited to hear this interview because they want to know so much about your sons, Len and Jay, especially Lynn, being that he was one of the greatest basketball players ever. But I thought that it was important to also know more about you.
Yes, thank you so much. I love your message in terms of bringing anonymous Afro-American Black females on your program. And I was excited about that curve that you take in terms of your interviews. So it's an honor, as I said earlier.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody know who you are.
Well, I don't know.
Well, I watched like 10 of your interviews and I was just very inspired by you. And I know that you hear this all the time, but to me, you are really like a national treasure.
Wow.
And one of the things that I loved on your motivational speeches is when you talked about the 4 things you learned about the life that lemons will give you.
Okay. The 4 things in life that lemons will give you. Okay. I have to think. I really have to think. You're speaking of lemons to lemonade?
Mm-hmm. So one of the ones you were saying how at first we think we want a sense of a good life.
Oh, yes. The first thing is,
I want a throwback. Mm-hmm.
Yes. One of the ways that I give my introduction of myself is I give a little testimony in terms of how the Bias family, what I learned about life, and that is that we are all in a time of the good life. And when we're in the good life, we think that everything should be well. But what I learned is that there are levels in the good life that we still should be grateful for. Because when you're in the good life, you don't realize that even when everything isn't going the way you want it to go, you don't realize that you were in the good life until the second thing comes, and that's the nightmare. And the nightmare is where you can't breathe, you can't think, you can't imagine how did this happen to me? And just looking at our current events when we look at Miami, Florida with the collapse of the condo. And all of a sudden people were doing life, and then the nightmare comes, and that's where the unthinkable happens, and you keep trying to wake up from this dream. You keep shaking yourself and shaking yourself, but the dream continues on. So what I like to share in terms of taking life's lemons and make lemonade is that we all have lemons in our lives. We have things that we don't like, but those lemons, if you use them in the right way. I was on an interview with someone earlier, and they gave the analogy that when years ago, the lemons and the lemon and the sugar go together used to be a remedy years ago when people weren't feeling well, or like me, when they have a cough or something like that. So the lemon and the sugar goes together, and that's the balance that is in life. And we think sometimes today that there is a place that we can find in life where I won't have to deal with anything. These challenges won't happen to me. I can avoid the pitfalls that people are going through. But the reality is that life will find you. You cannot hide from life. Money can't do it. Position can't do it. Life will catch up with you. Now, it may not be publicly like it was with me, but in the deaths of my two sons, but life will catch up with you in other areas of your life that you're dealing with. So we have the good life, we have the nightmare. And the fourth point is life after death. And life after death means that how do I gather the pieces together? My God, how do I start over? How do I even get my mind in a place where I can think to move on? How can I do that? And then when some people like to rush the process, oh no, I can get over this, I can keep it moving. But as I said earlier, if you don't deal with life, life will deal with you. And it takes the time that it takes to go through these processes that are required for us to rebuild and refocus and reset and move on. And the fourth and final point is, I think it is that the best is yet to come. And I can remember being a woman of faith when I prayed and asked God, what happened to my life? I thought the best was yet to come. And I heard, yes, the best is yet to come. And here I am 35 years later, speaking on your platform, encouraging other people. So many times in life, we look at the fruit of the marketable, the things that you can see, the substances, money, things, stuff. But our reality is, in life, what I have learned, the best is yet to come in the non-marketable, the things that money cannot buy that are within all of us. I just think that peace and love and joy and courage and perseverance and confidence and persistence, all of these are non-marketable tools that we have within us to help us through. And some of the lemons that life presents are there to stir up the gifts within us, to uncover those gifts, to move on, not by yourself, but with strong support systems like platforms of your own.
Yeah, I really love that, especially the last part, the best is yet to come.
Yes, we have to understand that with life, we have to understand that life has seasons. And some of us are just like the people down in Florida. they are in a winter season, and we are looking at Florida, but people are going through a trauma throughout the country right now. I mean, everywhere, not one particular big event that is being magnified through the media, but people are going through their own personal traumas every day. And we have to understand that everybody is going to have a winter season. Winter is where you ache and you hurt and you cry and you want to know what has happened to you. But when we look at the seasons, we start with summer. We want it to be summertime. For the people that love summer, we don't want daylight savings time to come. I mean, to end. We want it to stay nice and warm and long days and at the beach having a good time. But life isn't like that. This season will end. And then you have people that are in summer where things are going pretty good. And then you have people who are in the season of fall. And that's where you reminisce about how good the summer was. And then you have the season of winter. And winter is where your disappointments come in, grief, hopelessness, I mean, trauma, you name it. You don't even think you can breathe again. Winter seasons prepare us for the next season, which is spring. And spring always means new beginnings. But where we get confused is where there is winter in one area of our life, we will make our whole life winter, where everything is hopeless. I just can't see anything but darkness. In reality, there are other places in our life where it's still summer, where it's still fall, and it's still spring. And if we can identify those other areas in our life where we have hope, because hope is not extinct, it will help us get through our winter season.
When it comes to drugs, do you think that our community takes prevention seriously?
Absolutely not. And it's not our community. It's the nation as a whole. Len has been dead 35 years, and our problems that we have within the United States of America have quadrupled, I believe, in terms of substance abuse. And if you have no prevention, no real intervention, then there's going to continue to be a multiplication of the same behaviors and conducts, because the generation before won't teach the generation that's behind.
And I also read that you consulted with at least 3 presidents on a national drug policy.
Oh, yeah. That was Bill Clinton, Al Gore, and the governor of Maryland, Glenn Denning. And that was back in 1992. That was almost 20 years ago.
I did my homework on you.
Well, it was a marvelous platform. And to be sitting next to the president, and in between the president and the vice president at that particular conference, and to actually be asked questions, my thoughts concerning substance abuse, it was really a privilege. It was an honor and a privilege.
So I like to start from the beginning, because I love the stories you told about your childhood. So how was your upbringing?
Average family. Average family in terms of my mom and my dad. My dad worked every day, went to work. My mother was a stay-at-home mom for years and years. And then as we got older, she went back to work. She returned to work. And we were just average, having brothers and sisters and just moving on. We just had an average childhood.
And you was the oldest, right?
Yes, I was. Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
What did you want to be when you was growing up? Because I feel like, didn't you say you wanted to be a teacher?
Well, I thought I would be a teacher because of the burning desire that was in me to teach. As I mentioned earlier, I am a woman of faith, a born-again believer, and I always thought that I would teach Sunday school or some little class, something with children. I had no idea the magnitude of what it would be. I had no idea until after Len's death. I was at the university. They were doing a memorial service there. And the parents, the mothers of the other players presented me with roses at that memorial service. I guess I gave my first public presentation. And as a result of that, I don't know if you've ever heard of Pat Robertson of the Christian Broadcasting Network. He invited me down for an interview because people couldn't believe the strength that I had. And I kept talking about God and how God had given me strength. And it took off from there. I never did another thing. People began to ask me to speak, and I've been doing it now for over, since Len's death. And then for the Bias family, there are 4 things that happen every year, regardless. And June the 19th is the celebration of Len's death. June 20th is the birthday of my second son that was murdered. Father's Day is always in that week, and the NBA draft.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah. But because of my faith and my strength in God, I'm able to do things that would be absolutely impossible. What I know so clearly is that if God moved his hand from me, I would be cuckoo. I would be just like everyone thinks that I should be. But I know and believe that a mission was birthed out of this for me to encourage people. And I think sometimes as people, not only Afro-American people, we become so offended by the atrocities that we have endured personally that we are so offended by what we have had to deal with that we don't see the beauty in showing people your wounds.
That's a fact.
We take these atrocities and say, what happened to my life? I don't care about anyone else. And to be perfectly honest with you, if God had said, I have something that I want to, I'm going to share with you. You're going to lose 2 sons, but you're going to help a lot of people. I would have said, get yourself another girl. Not the kid. No.
Not the kid.
No, I'm not giving up anything.
Right.
So what I have learned is that in so many cases, that people have gone through tragedies. I mean, I just can't imagine. If I could share this one story that just came on the news last night. And even though I buried 2 sons and God has strengthened me, but it may have hit the national news where this Afro-American mother from Texas took her son to the Naval Academy here in Annapolis because he was going to attend there this year. And so she took him to the academy, went back to her hotel, and was sitting on the balcony, and gunfire broke out, and she was shot and killed sitting on her balcony.
Oh, wow.
57 years old, bringing her baby to be enlisted. Can you imagine what they're going through right now? And that's what I meant by
That's
some
sad.
of the personal tragedies that people are enduring that do not make the everyday news. You know what I mean? The national news, that is. So, but if anyone can recover from that, to be able to have a voice about gun violence, and especially in the Afro-American community, that would be marvelous. That would be marvelous. If
Just-
someone could, you know what I mean, come out
Right.
with a voice and talk about our real issues that we have within community.
But I think you do a great job, because I'm telling you, I watched a lot of your interviews and you always just seem so regal and so like put together, and just like it's a beautiful thing to see. And I was even I had a really hard day yesterday. So even watching you, and I even listened to your podcast where you spoke about where you got your faith from being a young woman or being a child, and that even just restored my faith with certain things. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's a wonderful thing. When I started the podcast, because people have asked me about my strength for so long, I was just going to say, I wasn't saved, I got saved, and now I'm saved. And making it very simple. But then as I thought about it and prayed about it, God showed me, no. There were valuable seeds that were sown by your parents and elders in the best way that they knew how to set a foundation for you. And so I think sometimes we can be so critical of adults and parents, those types of things, but sometimes people do not know any better sometimes, and they're fighting their own demons and trying to learn and still trying to press through to give you the best them, even though, you know, it may not look like it at that time. But with length of days comes understanding about life, and that you take the meat and throw the bones away. The part that is valuable, you keep that. And as we look at life, we always, and I talk about this when I speak about grief, is you have to value what remains and appreciate what remains after the grief. After the grief, what remains? Your family, your loved ones, and your great support system, your health. I mean, whatever, there is something to have gratitude for in your winter season to help you to get through. While you're going through your winter season, there are other things in your life that you can value and appreciate and have gratitude for.
do you feel like God was preparing you for this journey all along? And the reason why I asked is because I remember you saying how your mom was telling you as a kid how God was going to destroy the world.
I think so. She dropped the valuable seeds. That's why I had to backtrack. I was just going to talk about how I did and what I did, but it wasn't that at all. My mother told me that when I was 2 years old, she used to sit me in the choir stand while they did rehearsal. I would sit in a little chair, and all of those seeds are going in. And I would like to encourage parents, don't be weary in doing well in speaking life over your children. I don't care what it looks like. Words have power. Words have power. And just keep encouraging them. Correct them, because they prefer to have comfort rather than correction. But continue to give affirmation of who they are, where they're going, and keep sowing those good seeds. So my mother had used to tell my brothers and I stories, and one day she sat down, I can remember it. She told me that the world was going to come to an end. God was going to destroy the earth by fire. And I was terrified. I can remember walking home from school in the 4th grade, looking up at heaven saying, God, is this the day that you're going to destroy the world? So my destiny, as it says in Jeremiah, God knew me before I was in my mother's womb and knew the work that I was going to do, and to give me a beautiful husband to partner with me and to cover me while I go out, while we team up and I go out on the mission field.
Mm.
I think that the seeds are so valuable that you plant in children. They are so valuable. And if the only thing they hear are cuss words, MF this, be this, you're not nothing, you're not going to be blah, 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 negative, negative, negative. Well, words are seeds and they go in and they will reproduce after their own kind. But when you put good in, fruit will come forth. And that's one thing that I have been delighted about for 35 years, is because there's no word that I have spoken that I felt have been insignificant or futile. When I stand before my audiences, I stand before my audiences believing that they can do it. You can do it. You can do it, but you've got to press. The only way you can get oil from an olive is to crush it. The only way you can get juice from an orange is to squeeze it. And the only way you can get fragrance from a rose is to crush it. You know, life is not a rose garden. And even when you walk through a rose garden, there are plenty of thorns on the rose bushes.
How long have you and your husband been married? 'Cause y'all been together for a very long time, right?
I'll just say over 50 years.
Oh, that's amazing.
Isn't it?
That's amazing. I hope I have that.
For real. And what we have to learn about marriage is that you have two individuals coming together and you have to work at through the hills and the valleys. And the one thing is that the marriage never goes on the table. The issues go on the table. You see what I'm saying? Because when we put the issues we're concerned about on the table,
right,
then that leaves, we're opening up for healing. We want the best. So even if your mate is not ready to open up, can you endure the patience? Can you build your character? Can you develop patience? Do you really believe in your marriage? It's warfare. It's warfare. And I'm sure if my husband was on here, he would tell you as well. But we have a decent marriage. We're still in love with each other. We both have a measure of health and strength. We have 6 beautiful grandchildren, and God is great and God is good. And 2 remaining children.
All the time. And then you had, altogether, you have 4 kids. 1 was a girl and 3 boys.
Right. And my daughter had the same thing. 1 girl and 3 boys.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So when did you notice that Lynn was good at basketball?
Well, we didn't find that out until he got in middle school. Well, then it was junior high school. And they had intramural games. And he took a growing, he just shot up all of a sudden. And he was tall. And he took an interest in basketball in the 7th or 8th grade. And usually they have feeder schools, and the coach from the junior high school told the coach of the high school that there is a young man he may be interested in coming over who could possibly, had natural instincts about the game. And that's how it happened. It wasn't that we took him to AAU games and put him in all kind of camps. It just sprouted up with his height. It just popped up.
And I know you told a funny story about how he wanted you to punch him in the stomach.
Yeah,
he was working.
Yeah. When he was in college, I want to say that it was his senior year in college, senior or junior year. I didn't know what a 6-pack was, but I can tell you he had one. And he said, "Ma," he lifted his shirt up. He said, "Hit me in my stomach as hard as you can." And I said, "Boy, get out of my face. Hit you with none of your stomach. Go ahead." "Mom, for real, for real." So I balled up my fist and hit him in his stomach.
Did you hit him hard?
I did, and it felt like a brick wall. He started laughing. I told you. So, and I also think about before he died, like I said, I was a Christian, and he came to me and talking about this song that he liked by Whitney Houston, The Greatest Love of All. And he said, "Mom, you should listen to it." And you know me, a holy roller back then. "Oh, I don't listen to that kind of music." And this, "Mom, you need to hear this song." And after I listened to it. He got it for me. I listened to it. I don't know how, if we were there together, I can't remember, but I listened to it. And that song became the anthem for my presentations as I began to travel, reciting verse by verse the greatest love of all, what each verse meant. That's what I used to teach. So before he left me, I feel that he left me the script to use to help young people, the script. He gave it to me because the greatest love of all is the love that you must have for yourself.
I agree. And then you also spoke about how, which I didn't know, and one of my best friends, because he loved Len Bias, he didn't know that he was majoring in interior design and he loved poetry.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was an artist. As a matter of fact, someone called us recently and came across a picture that he had drawn when he was in high school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he was a poet. He loved interior design. He was very introspective in terms of nature and the beauty of things around him. And he would bring home a rock and say, "Mom, isn't this a pretty rock? Look at it. Isn't it beautiful?" And this is when he was a young boy. So he had a lot of gifts and talents, and he is sorely missed. But we will never forget him, but we live every day anyhow. You know, we keep it moving. But, and all of his nieces and nephews, because of social media, they go on and they're just like both of them are living. They talk about them just like they are living today.
That's amazing. And I could tell how loved, and we're going to talk about Jay as well, because one thing I noticed in some of your interviews, I feel like a lot of people didn't touch on Jay as much, and I feel like it's only right that we also allow people to know more about him as well.
Yes, my precious Jay, precious Jay. And there are so many people that grieve the death of Len Bias, and I can still be in the presence of people that will speak his name and cry. And with my son Jay, if people felt that way, how do you think his brother felt?
Right.
And just trying to make it, and it was so much cruelty and so many things he experienced in life. And you know, it's sad in our society today, it's escalated, but people have become accustomed to being cruel and spreading cruelty. You know what I mean? And Jay, 35 years ago, experienced it, and we tried with him just to keep him comfortable and just tried to make it with him. But it was a long process, and he was still grieving for his brother.
I mean, I can imagine.
When he died, he was still grieving for his brother.
Yeah, I read in one article, and I don't want to jump ahead, but I read in one article how he said like he idolizes Lynn, like Lynn was his idol.
Yes, absolutely. It was his oldest brother.
Mm-hmm.
It was his oldest brother, and the fun they used to have together, because we're a very close family, and just the things they used to do together. I never dreamed that I would have to drink from a cup like that. We're going along, minding our business, raising our children the best we can. And then 42 months later, you have the same old song.
Right.
And I can remember when I went to the hospital when I was called about Jay. I asked my daughter when I went into the waiting room of for the loved one, and the family waiting room. I asked my daughter, I said, well, how is Jay doing? And she said, Mom, Jay is gone. I said, no, you're joking. I know, no, 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 no. I could not believe it. And I was so mad with God and with the world. I locked myself in my bedroom for 3 days. People would bring me food or something to drink, and I would take the cup and throw it up against the wall. I was so angry with God, but his patience endures forever, and he patiently waits on the fruit of the earth. And after the third day, I got myself together and got up, came out of the room after I kicked the slats out of my crib, and was able to get up and move on, that God is in control, and take up this bitter cup and drink it and move on. I went ahead to make his funeral arrangements with the help of other friends and family.
Right. Well, I want to revisit that because I don't want to, because I do want to speak more to you about Jay, because I did read some stories about how it was, which I can only imagine, difficult for him. What was draft night like for you and your family? Because Lynn was the second overall pick for the NBA draft in 1986, and he was selected by the Boston Celtics. Are you a basketball fan, by the way?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I'm trying to get out of here today so I can get home and look at the game tonight. Because we follow March Madness. Mm-hmm. Tennis, Wimbledon is on. We love tennis, basketball, football, college, and professional basketball, and football as well.
Mm-hmm.
So,
is it not hard for you to watch basketball, or?
No. My entire family, we enjoy sports. Mm-hmm. We will all be together and looking at NBA games, and we have our special players we like, and this, that, and the other. We enjoy it. It's not hard at all. All of this comes as more or less gifts from God that you're going to endure. Endurance is the ability to withstand stress and hardship. And like I said earlier, you have your winter seasons, but there is you still have to honor what remains. Mm-hmm. And part of the honoring is still enjoying the game. Mm-hmm. And we do. But draft night, we were.
Did you cook?
No, we were supposed to go to a restaurant. And my husband was in New York with Lynn, and they came back home, and I was not there. I had gone to a meeting with my cousin to talk about a children's program. So I spoke to Len on the phone, but I never ever saw him again until he was on that table the next day dead. In the hospital. But we were so excited. But for me, it was like, there's a gold ring right there, but you're never gonna get it.
Mm-hmm.
It was always like that for me. It was always like that. You can see it, but do you have it in your hand yet?
So it's like in your spirit, kind of knew something was a little.
Yes. That intuitive nature, just the process of things going down and happening. Mm-hmm.
So Len Bias died June 19, 1986, 2 days later after being drafted by the Boston Celtics from a cocaine overdose. Were you with your family when you received the call?
We were home. We were actually home. We received the call that morning early that Len was sick. And he had been taken to the hospital, and we jumped up and ran to the hospital. We're trying to figure out, what is he doing?
Like, what's going on?
Yeah. And when we got there, you know, he had not been pronounced dead, but later pronounced him dead. And later that day, a detective came and said that he had died of cocaine intoxication. Yeah.
And I know that there are a lot of speculations and theories surrounding the death of your son, which out of respect for you and your family, I don't care to ask. But do you think that your son would be alive today if he was around different associations?
Well, what I have learned about life is association is very important. And if you have a plan and you have dreams, you have to be cognizant who's in your realm of influence. And everybody that laughs and grins in your face is not your friend.
So true.
It has never been proven to me that Len took his own life. It's never been proven to me, but the only people that would know that are the men that were in the room with him that night. So that's neither here nor there. That's just my honest perspective based on knowing my son. Not if he were perfect, like I told anyone. If Len had a drug problem, I'd do just like anybody else would. I would do something in terms of getting him help.
Right.
That's it. That's what I do, because nobody is perfect. You know, we're all becoming, we're all flawed. So I'm not trying to act like he was a perfect young man, but it has never been proven to me beyond a shadow of a doubt that he took his own life.
Did you think that his death would have such a huge impact like it did and still do to this day?
Never, ever. Never, 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 ever, nay. Never, never. When we had his funeral, we had it at our home church. And I just figured it would be family, people coming. But the line was 4 blocks up, going all the way on a major thoroughfare, and another 4 or 5 blocks down.
Oh, wow.
I'm telling you. And we received letters and we received cards from Ronald Reagan, who was president, George Bush, Speaker of the House, cards and I could not believe it. And what happened with me was I knew him as my son. I did not know he was a superstar. I did not know. I did not know until his death.
And I can only imagine how many people stop you on a daily basis that tell you because of him they no longer use drugs.
Oh, yeah. Well, I received emails and texts and every once in a while calls that just say, I changed my life because of your son. Your son did not die in vain because I changed my life. Hear it all at the time.
So you mentioned earlier how people treated Jay once Len passed away, because Jay was 16 when Len passed away. So how was Jay as a son?
We had a beautiful family, not perfect. There are one thing that I've learned in life. There are no perfect moms, no perfect dads, no perfect children, no perfect families anywhere. The Joneses may look like they have it all together down the street, but when you go down there, they're jacked up too. So there are no perfect families, but we were an average family and we loved each other. My husband was a major part in my son's, all of my children's personal development. He taught them how to play chess. He wrestled with the boys. He gave them lessons of life, and Jay and Len would play together. We have pictures of them with these little football uniforms on that they called suicide football. Because if they got hit, they would be hurt. It wasn't nothing real about it. Just these little football uniforms, and they would be on. This is amazing because they would take my old tape recorder and play like they were Howard Cosell, and one would act like he was Howard Cosell, and the other would act like he was Muhammad Ali answering Cosell's questions, and just a real fun, very close family. My daughter and I, the family still laughs about some of the things that they did, as children. And he was amazing. And he enjoyed basketball. And he
was a good basketball player too.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. He was an excellent player, but just trying to get back on track.
Yeah.
My God, it's nothing easy about it. And, to be absent from the body is to be present
with the Lord.
And I just believe he and Len are together.
Yeah, when I did my research on Jay and how he was murdered, it really broke my heart, especially since it was 4 years later.
Yeah, 42 months.
And right before Christmas.
Yeah, December 4th of 1990, and I can remember I wasn't going to I said I'm not putting up any Christmas decorations. I'm not going to have the coffin opened. I was just everything. It was me. I'm not going to do. And my daughter reminded me, Mom, there's still Eric and I. We have to, because you can get so caught up in you and what you don't want that, like I just said earlier, that you forget about what remains. You forget about the other people. You're so caught up in your pain, And I did go ahead with the help of some friends and put a Christmas tree up and put a wreath on the door. And we did have an open viewing at Jay's funeral. But I don't know how many of your listeners may be Christians or not, but at Jay's funeral, 795 people gave their life to Christ.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So he was a seed like Len that went down into the ground to bring forth life. I believe that.
Do you mind speaking a little bit about the day for those who don't know about what happened to Jay? You don't have to go into all details, but...
Oh, well, Jay, his boss, and another co-worker, they worked at a local bank. They had gone to lunch. It was, they were looking for Christmas gifts just at a local mall. And it's apparently Jay walked into a store and a man and a lady were having some type of disagreement, later to find out they're husband and wife. And the person, from my understanding, asked Jay, "What are you looking at?" And one word led to another. And my son's boss said, come on, let's get out of here. And they left. And the individual that he was arguing with, there were two men in a car pulled up beside the vehicle as they were heading back to work and fired 10 shots from an automatic weapon, two of the bullets striking Jay in his back, killing him. But the miracle is the other men weren't touched at all.
What did you have to do to begin your journey of healing and forgiveness? Because that's like a lot. And this is the things that we do know. So I can only imagine the things that people don't know that your family went through behind closed doors.
Well, I can't speak for my whole family. I can speak for me. As the result of my strength, it has helped my family along. You know what I mean? But I can't say where everyone is, though we're all continuing on our journey. But I tell you an incident that happened, and I can only give all honor and glory to God. And that's why I know this mission I was called for, because it's no way you can get up and just say you're going to go save the world after you have suffered one atrocity behind the other. You know, it's no way in the world you can do it. I mean, what happened to my life? What happened to my kids, you know?
Right.
So I know that this was a mission from God, but the forgiveness part, I just told someone today, for Christians that are out there, you cannot just forgive people when you have been hurt. It takes the power of God through the Holy Spirit to bring healing in that area. So I'll tell you a quick story. A couple of years ago, I was asked to participate in this event with a group of women that I was not familiar with. And one of my colleagues kept saying, I think you need to do this. I think you need to do this. And I said, well, I wasn't feeling it. But in my prayer time, I heard, no, go forth. So I went ahead and did the program. It was held in a public setting. And as I said before, I was not familiar with the other people that were a part of the team. It was a Christian woman's event. And so at the conclusion of the event, a lady approached me and told me she enjoyed my presentation, and she proceeded to tell me that she was the sister of the man that murdered my son.
Oh, wow.
And I said, wow, well, how is your mother doing? And she said, they're all over there. And it was a group of family members there. And I went over and greeted all of them, only by the power of God.
Yeah, because I can only imagine if God was with you.
By the power of God. And when I went back and shared with one of my girlfriends, she said, what?
Right.
And what did you do? And I told her, and I was putting on women's events at that time. And I invited the mother and a couple of the other women that were there to come over, to come to my event. But the mother had other challenges and, health challenges, and she succumbed to them. But it was our two sons that had the beef. You know what I mean? Whatever it was, God gives you understanding and gives you the strength to endure, so that, you're out here and you're living what you're speaking about.
Well, I know you have to get ready to go, so I have two more questions, and then that's it, because she has to go home to her family, y'all.
That's right.
If there's one thing you would like for listeners to receive from your family's legacy, what would that be?
The one thing that I would like for them to receive is life is hard.
It sure is.
Life is hard, but it's worth fighting for.
And before we leave, one of my friends wanted to know your thoughts on this. Your son, Len, versus Michael Jordan. What do you think about the rumors that Lynn could have been, if not already was, at that time, better than Jordan?
I'm his mother. What do you think I'm going to say?
Right.
No, but what Jordan, Michael Jordan, he set the game at a new level. And that's why you find these young guys that are playing ball now so good, so young, because the bar has been raised. And Michael Jordan was one of the main ones to raise the bar. But Len was the best all-around player.
Mm-hmm.
He could play small forward, power forward. If he had to be a center, even if he had to be the center, which would happen every once in a while in college. And then plus he had a jumper. He could leap and he could shoot and he could play defense. So from my perspective, they were both excellent. Michael is still enjoying his life here in the earth, but Len, for me, was the best all-around player.
I'm like, of course you don't go with her, Stan. Why would you ask that question? I would definitely be sharing your information with my listeners. Like I said, even though every guest is anonymous, I'm pretty sure people know who you are at this point.
Yes.
And however I can help you in your podcast or whatever project you have doing, I will gladly be a part of it and gladly assist you with it.
Thank you so much, Ebony, and I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Pressing and pushing and doing the good work.
Thank you. And enjoy your time with your family, and I will talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye.
I was super excited for you all to hear this episode. So if you have any comments, questions, concerns, or anything, please make sure to email me at hello@thephgpodcast.com. As always, thank you so much for your support. And until next time, everyone, later.
The Professional Homegirl Podcast is a production of the Black Effect Podcast Network. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows. Don't forget to subscribe and rate the show. And you can connect with me on social media at the PHG Podcast.